First of all, can I just start with your injury news after the international break?
Yeah, sort of. Obviously, going back to the last game, Carl Starfelt is obviously still out. He'll probably still be a couple of weeks. Cameron Carter-Vickers will miss out again tomorrow. He's a little bit more advanced, so we'll see how he is after the weekend. And Jock is the other one who he was the only one who came back from international duty with a bit of a niggle. Again, won't play tomorrow, but again, confident he should be right after that.
When you get into this hectic spell of games, I suppose you don't want injuries, but is there a relief that none of them are too serious?
Yeah, Carl's missed a fair bit, which is disappointing for him because he'd sort of just got missed a fair bit of pre-season, and so by the end of it, depending on when he comes back, that could be a significant one. But the rest of them, we understand that's why we got the squad we have, that we're going to, particularly with our schedule over the next sort of month and a half, we're going to get some niggles, some guys who are going to be sore here and there, and that's why we've got the squad we have to be able to cope with that.
Hi, Ange. You mentioned the hectic schedule. I think it's 9 games in October alone. How do you plot that out in terms of using that squad? I mean, do you break it up into 2-3 game chunks? How do you kind of plot out such a busy period?
No, I mean, we've obviously known that that's going to be the case for a while, and you just plan for it. So I guess in terms of our training, in terms of the way we've built the squad, the way we've sort of prepared for this, as you said, it's 9 games. I think it's 13 games between now and the break, so 13 games in about 42, 43 days. So it gives you an idea you're going to be playing sort of every 3.5 days. So as I said, we've been planning for that for a while, and the process for us really is just look at each game and see how people are travelling from a physical standpoint, mental standpoint, and sort of make decisions as we go along.
The team's obviously been remarkably consistent over the course of the past year. So in that context, in terms of the defeat at St Mirren, how much time did you spend reflecting on that when you got the guys back, or is it a case of bad day at the office and move on quickly?
No, I mean, we spent the same amount of time as we would after every other game. I mean, we kind of assess each game the same way. Whether you win or lose, I think you try and sort of learn from every game football you play, and just because we've been winning games doesn't mean that we've been dismissing the fact that we still have areas to improve in, and the last game was a disappointing one for us, and not just the result but the performance, and we analysed it as we kind of would have in any other game, gave the feedback to the players, and now preparing for the game tomorrow.
Hi, Ange. Just talking about the international players, Callum and Greg featured quite a lot for Scotland. Have they come back, with a spring in their step and extra boost after some brilliant results for their international team midweek?
Callum's always got a spring in his step, mate. That's why he's the captain of the club. He's very good at knowing that what his responsibility is, and it's great for all the lads in the Scottish camp. Great that they all contributed, Cal and Greg and Anthony. Disappointing for Bull to pull out at the beginning of it, but great for the lads, and Scotland had a great window, and credit to Steve Clark and his staff and everyone involved. But Callum McGregor, you don't have to worry about his levels of enthusiasm when he's in this building, mate.
Turning our attention to tomorrow, what are you expecting from Motherwell? First time you're going to face Stevie Hamill as a manager. Do you think he's changed their style much since Graham Alexander last season?
Yeah, I think he's made some, he's sort of put his own imprint on the side, and, that's, I guess, for every new manager, that's what you try and do, and you've seen some changes to the team. It's always hard when you're coming in sort of mid-season or early in the season for Stephen, because you're sort of inheriting a group of players, but he knows them well, and we're expecting a tough game. Every game, as we've seen, has its own challenges, but we're back home tomorrow, and our former home has been excellent for a long time now, and we want to continue that.
Ange, update on Haksabanovic. Is he available this weekend?
Yeah, he wasn't one of the ones I said wasn't, mate. So, yeah.
Okay. You touched upon the kind of hectic schedule. I wonder, you're talking about utilising your squad up until now in the World Cup, but will you be wary of making wholesale changes in light of what happened at St Mirren from game to game?
No, again, every decision we make will be around what team we think will be able to best perform on the day. So if that means making a number of changes, we make a number of changes. If not, we don't. I mean, again, if you use a result of a game as a backdrop to question everything you do, then, mate, you'll go nuts in this game. So, I don't, like I said, every game is the same for us, whether we win, lose or draw. We look at the performance. We understand why we didn't perform on the day. We give the feedback to the players and we move on. But there's nothing that comes out of one result that, changes my outlook or my approach or what we, sort of want to achieve as a team.
And obviously, you got the chance to go back to Australia during the break. Was that good to go back as Celtic manager and obviously talk about the club a lot? Do you sense an excitement from people over there as well about what you're doing in the club? Yeah,
look, it was great. Just to clear up any sort of misunderstanding, it wasn't a holiday. It was a pretty brutal trip. Yeah, no, it was great, and there is a genuine excitement, enthusiasm. Obviously, my own connection, but just with the football club in general, and it was good to sort of get across all the sort of media platforms and talk about the upcoming games, and also talk about sort of how we're travelling at the moment, and there's a great enthusiasm. I think it works out to be a great time of the year. In a country like Australia where there are multiple sports and people's sort of priorities and sort of where their attention goes can sometimes get divided. When we're going there, most of the other major winter codes are finished. The World Cup is literally at the doorstep, so everyone sort of, their attention will be around football, and I think with us being there, Everton obviously coming across, the local competition up and running, it'll be a good time, and I think it'll be a good couple of games for us.
I realise you were obviously doing quite a few media interviews over there. Does that give you kind of a different kind of perspective to hear how people back home are perceiving what you're doing here in Scotland?
Like I said, I mean, I've got a sort of a fair understanding that people are following the journey, and I think they're taking great pride in sort of the progress the football club makes, and I guess they feel an attachment to the football club because of that. But media is media, mate. Around the world, I'll leave it at that anyway.
Hi, Ange. You'd said that the fans, they carry the result of the team into their daily lives, and whether it's win, lose or draw. Is that something that you think is unique to Scottish football, given your experience at different places around the world?
I wouldn't say unique, but I think it has more of an impact at certain football clubs. I think it does at particularly at this football club because there's such a strong association with being a supporter, fan, whatever you want to call it, of this football club, because it goes beyond just supporting a sporting club. There's a stronger attachment there. So obviously, the feelings run deeper, both in a positive and sort of in a negative sense if something disappointing happens. So but I think if you need to define it in any way, that's just passion. People are really passionate. They care. And that's the great thing about it. That's what I love about it, is that I think if people just sort of dismiss the highs and lows as just, it was a great day or it was a bad day and got on with it, then, we'd be missing that sort of special element that this football club has, that, people care, and when people care, they ride the waves and feel the elation and also, the disappointment when things don't go well.
You mentioned earlier that you always learn something from every game, no matter what the result. What did you learn about the team from the St Mirren defeat?
don't think, again, it's not about learning sort of from like I said, an overall thing. It's just addressing every aspect of the game, which we do. So we analyse every game the same way. It's about our preparation for that game. It's about team selection. And it's about how we play the game. The different elements of our game that are important to us, whether that's in a defensive sense, attacking sense, and then we break it down to the individual. So the learnings are all about how do we progress as a football team. So we can't chart that course according just to the results, because if you do that, then I think I've said a few times, you end up jumping at shadows, because results sometimes mask true progress. And whilst we've been very, very good team over the last particularly sort of 12, 14 months in terms of our progress, we've been under no illusions that we're nowhere near the team we want to be. We've all along the way, even when we've been winning, we've said we've still got areas to improve in, still got areas that we need to be better in. But this group of players has made enormous jumps in their own development over the last period. So that's the encouraging thing for us, that irrespective of what the outcome of a game is, they're coming back in here and wanting to be better.
And speculation about your future seems to turn up every day now, and it's very intense at this club. Had anything prepared you for that? Have you ever gone through anything like that before, and how do you deal with it?
It's fair to say speculation about my future has been with me from day one, for different reasons. So, look, like I said, for me, I don't worry about the stuff. It doesn't enter my sort of brain space. I take on every job that I have and every challenge to try and make the football club as successful as it possibly can be, and that's always been my total focus. So I think if I start thinking about the speculation that's there now about potentially me moving on to I don't know where, then I would have been worried about it at the start when the people were saying that I wouldn't last too long. I think once you allow speculation and sort of, I keep talking to the players about just, live in the moment. The present is the most important time. The past you can't change, the future you can't control. What you do now is going to be the most important thing to whatever your ambitions may be, whether that's in a personal sense, in a professional sense. If I don't, do my job well now, then there's no point thinking about speculation. The future will take care of itself. I won't be in a job. I won't be able to accomplish the things I want to do. So, that's always been my focus. That will always continue to be my focus. It's served me well, and it's what I'll continue to sort of concentrate on.
Mind you, there are not many clubs in the world where you can lose your first league game in a year and find yourself connected with jobs in the English Premiership at the same time.
No, very true. But that's where, I guess, like I said, it's, you understand it, and people are always, particularly in today's world, we get antsy pretty quick. We don't like to be settled. We want to know what's next. I think I said last year, we want to watch our favourite series all in one night. We don't want to wait week to week. So it's kind of the life we live these days. I'm still a bit old fashioned. I'll wait for the weekly episode before I watch my next series, mate.
So you don't treat Celtic as a box set?
Hi, Ange. You spoke about the Ajax model for developing the club, chipping away in the Champions League. That's obviously going to take time. So is that a project you plan to see through?
Yeah, look, I mean, again, I guess sometimes when I say things, I think people misinterpret. The Ajax model is just an example. What I've consistently said, this club doesn't have to follow any other club model. It's got its own model that I think if we stick to and sort of make sure that we, maintain our discipline, that we can create our own model. I mean, like I said, Ajax is just an example. I don't think this football club needs to follow any other club's lead. It can establish itself as a Champions League club. It's had the financial prudency over years that allows it to be in a position now where it can, compete in the Champions League. Now our role is, once we get to the Champions League, is how do you establish yourself as a Champions League football club? And as I said, at the beginning of this campaign, is by consistently being at that level, competing at that level, and chipping away every year. So it's not about me seeing it out, or it's, like I said, it's about the football club in itself. Continuing to stay disciplined in its approach and trying every year to make inroads with the clubs we want to compete with at that level. As I said, with the Ajax model, I mean, they didn't win a title for 2 or 3 years, I think. Do you think our football club would stand for that? I don't think so. And I definitely wouldn't be in charge. So, it's not about following other clubs' models. It's about understanding that other clubs have done it their own way. And I believe that this club has all the sort of things you need, or all the basic fundamentals you need to also be a club that competes at that level. But it does take time. That's not going to happen in a year or 2 years. So, whether that's me in charge or somebody else down the line, I think there's some really strong foundations now. And if we stay disciplined and continue to want to make an impact at Champions League level rather than just be a part of it, then I think we can chip away at it.
You've got a very good working relationship with Michael Nicholson. Is that the same with Dermot Desmond, and how often do you speak to him? Yeah,
I've got a great relationship, as you said, with Michael. I've got a great relationship with everyone at the football club, including Ian Jamieson, who we survived the trip to Oz together. So, so I mean, I think it's important. I understand that I'm kind of the front man, and I'm the person that kind of every week is rolled out as a spokesman for the club. But it's certainly, that's not an indication of why we've been so successful over the last sort of, since I've been involved. We've been successful because the whole club's sort of pulling in the same direction, and that's Michael and his management team. That's board level. That's the staff I have here, and it includes Dermot. I've got a great relationship with Dermot. He was the first person kind of who I spoke to when I first interviewed for the role. And the one thing about him is he's very supportive. He said to me at the outset he'll only call me after we've had a loss. So I haven't spoken to him for a year. So we had a good chat. But no, he's been very good, very supportive. But like I said, I think the whole club is, and I think people would see evidence of that in that, there's a real whole of club purpose to what we're doing at the moment. There aren't too many distractions that are taking us or we're allowing to take us away from what our focus is, and that can only happen if everyone's on the same page. And as sort of the manager of the club, I couldn't be sort of happier with the support I've been getting from all levels.
Afternoon, Ange. Oliver Abelgard was one of the final arrivals during the summer transfer window. I know he's been included on the bench. Can I just ask how beneficial the international break would have been to him to come in and just get used to the setup at Lennoxtown? Yeah,
it's been really important because it wasn't just that sort of Oliver came in late. He hadn't really done a pre-season with any club. He'd sort of been training on his own, and I think it would have been unfair on him, and he probably, in terms of his physical conditioning, he wouldn't have been anywhere near the levels to throw him in before now. But he's done good work the last couple of weeks here at Lennoxtown with the guys who sort of stayed back, and he's edging now towards getting some game time. He'll be in the squad tomorrow. Potentially we can get him some game time, but I think you'll see him feature over the next sort of few games, and he'll be important to us because the reason we signed him was because we knew that. With the fixturing the way it is, that we're likely to get some, like I said, injuries or players we need to sort of look after, and particularly in the midfield area. So it was good to get him involved.
Good stuff. The club this weekend is preparing to mark the 100th anniversary of the birth of Jock Stein. I know you've spoken previously about standing on the shoulders of giants at Celtic. Can I just ask how difficult it is for any manager coming into Celtic to follow the example set by Jock Stein?
I don't think it's difficult to follow the example, but you'll never follow his path. I mean, he's an immortal at the club. He's not just at this football club, but in terms of his standing as a manager in world football. I don't think anyone, if you're coming in here trying to emulate his feats, I think you'll fall short, because it's not just about the achievements, it's about his impact on a football club, and he's one of these rare individuals who I don't think anyone can ever compare to. But for sort of, I guess, myself and people who come into this position, we have some really strong values to uphold. That's where our responsibility lies, about the way the team plays, the way that the team conducts itself, the way the team, responds to its supporter base, its fans, the people who are the most important. All these things I think were established a long time ago by people like, Jock, Stein, and for, like I said, for people like me coming through, it's about then making sure that we uphold those values. That's our responsibility. The success, that we have along the way adds to the story of this football club. But there's no doubt that he'll always be the greatest of football managers at this football club for as long as this football club exists.